Welcome back everyone to Gol D, and Oda has finally confirmed that the Pirate King Gol D Roger had conquered the world without a devil fruit.
Nani?
For years, the community had been speculating that Roger might have had the power to control the seas, or like any godlike ability. But in chapter 1047, Kaido revealed to us that Roger defeated all his foes with Haki alone, as only Haki can transcend all. Luffy even took this statement to heart and pushed his use of Haki to an unseen level. His Haki grew so big that it made the lightnings from the heavens look kinda tiny. But Kaido's statement made us question just how powerful Roger's Haki would be, because this information not only came from his clash with Roger and his crew, but also by witnessing Roger's peak during the God Valley incident. This very battle paved the way for Roger's legacy and the generations to follow before our current story, where Roger and his crew formed a temporary alliance with his longtime rival Vice Admiral Garp. Along with his squad, these two legends went up against the ROCKS pirates, whose crew consisted of their captain ROCKS D XEBEC, Whitebeard, Big Mom, Kaido, Shiki, and John.
Who?
Come on, you guys can't be serious, right? Captain John, the dude Buggy has been obsessed over because of his treasure.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Come on, John, he later became a famous captain in his own right due to the treasure he accumulated.
Let me be clear, I did not know that. I appreciate that, but I don't give a damn.
Regardless, there are many more legends that came from this crew, but the ROCKS pirates, especially XEBEC, was considered to be Roger's strongest and most notable opposition. His crew consisted of various overpowered devil fruit users. We know Big Mom ate the Soro no Mi early in her life, and likewise the other members weren't too far behind in strength. Most importantly, ROCKS must have been ridiculously overpowered and ambitious to have all these unique characters following him. Either way, this battle resulted in the dissolution of the crew, giving us an idea that ROCKS in fact died during this war. But for them to be defeated by Roger, who neither him nor his first mate nor his allied partner Garp possessed any devil fruit, reinforces Kaido's statement. Roger's Haki that comes from ambition and undying will proved that the truest form of power is that of self-belief. As Rayleigh once said, Haki is a power that lies dormant in all the world's creatures, presence, fighting spirit, and intimidation. It is not different from the things that humans can naturally sense, such as these. The act of not doubting, that is strength. And Gol D Roger was the epitome of this. So to understand how Monkey D. Luffy will become the very strongest and harness the power of a Pirate King's Haki, we are going to break down the entire life of Gol D Roger and how he became the strongest man to ever live. Starting from the very beginning, 77 years ago from the current story, Gol D Roger was born in Logtown, a city on the Pole Star Island in the East Blue. Oda stated Logtown is the combination of prologue and epilogue, where another name for this city is the town of beginning and the end, because Roger was both born and executed there. A fun thing to know is that this city's design is based on Florence, Italy, which kinda alludes that Roger might have been Italian in our world. Regardless, there isn't much we know about Roger's upbringing. However, according to Garp in chapter 588, Roger's childhood was much like his own son's Ace, where he went through a difficult time and developed a fear of losing his loved ones. This could mean that Roger lost his family at a very young age, and considering Logtown is the hotspot location, very close to Reverse Mountain and just out of sight of the Red Line, a lot of pirates would be passing through to stock up for the Grand Line. Roger, witnessing all of this as a child, likely fueled his ambition to become a pirate himself. Now, I'm not saying there was a Shanks figure in his life, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was. There is also the question of where did Roger obtain his notable straw hat, which was eventually passed down to Shanks, then to Luffy. This straw hat has a huge significance, as an identical but gigantic straw hat is frozen and hidden away by Imusama. But regardless of how Roger obtained the straw hat, Garp pointed out despite living that reckless life, he got lucky and survived. The loss and hardship that Roger faced as a child molded his personality to hold loyalty above all else. Garp recalled how Roger destroyed an entire army of a nation just because they spoke bad about his friend. Like, come on, we all wish we had a Roger in our lives. Even after society saw him as a criminal, his friends trusted him completely. Roger deep down was pure as a child, but when enraged, he would bring down hell itself. His straightforward and honest nature won the hearts of many, including Garp, who later risked his position to take Ace under his wing. Roger's spirit and ambition was likely tied to this part of his personality, where his Haki was directly fueled by this mindset. Understanding loss as a child, feeling lonely and abandoned by parents would force anyone to hold on to true friends with every single fiber in their body. In many ways, Roger's attitude is paralleled by Luffy, who would also go to war with the government itself and the whole world for the sake of a friend. But talking about friends, sometimes later, early in his journey, Roger met Silver's Rayleigh, who was living in a stolen ship after his house burnt down. Roger, impressed by his ship, believed that their encounter was a fated meeting and asked Rayleigh to join him in turning the world upside down. The very same words were later declared by Whitebeard during the war in Marineford to the world government. This was based on what Whitebeard learned from Roger after he visited Laughtale. However, in this version of Roger's case, he had still yet to learn the secrets of the past and future, meaning Roger turning the world upside down was something personal to him, again likely due to his mysterious past or his innate disposition which moved him forwards. Either way, Rayleigh, on hearing all of this, initially laughed and refused Roger's offer. However, eventually he was swayed, where the two then became best friends and lifelong partners. Roger then became the captain of the Roger Pirates, with Rayleigh as his first mate. Around the age of 25, Roger and his crew was renowned as rookies in the Grand Line. We also know this because around 52 years ago, Brook and the Rumbar Pirates entered the Grand Line. In Shobondi, Brook stated he heard of a rookie pirate by the name of Roger, confirming this status. Now, we don't have much information about Roger's early crew. However, what we do know is that neither of his apprentice Shanks nor Buggy were part of his rookie days. As you know, they weren't even born yet. What we can assume is that members like Scopper, Gaban, Taro and Sunbell were amongst the first in his crew. At some point, Roger's crew was in need of a new ship, where just like the Straw Hat Pirates, they paid a visit to Water 7. The crew then hired the master shipwright Tom, who proceeded to build their famed Oro Jackson, which would go to traverse the world. Like the Thousand Sunny, this ship was constructed using the wood from the legendary treasure tree Adam, being known as the strongest wood in existence. This is a testament to Oro Jackson lasting through the entirety of Roger's life. Though a quick note is that in Buggy's flashback in chapter 19, the ship he is seen in did not look like Oro Jackson, meaning there could have been a temporary ship for his crew, or this was just retcon. But what we do know is that Roger, with his new ship Oro Jackson, would go on to sail into the new world, where 13 years later, at the age of 38, Roger and his crew had finally reached Lodestar Island, the final island that the log post pointed to. We don't know why it took this long to follow the log post to his final destination. Considering the nature of Roger, who wasn't chasing the title to be the Pirate King, he more than likely was just living in the journey. Even so, before Roger, no one had been known to have set foot on this island, making the Roger Pirates the first one in 800 years. Well, at least to the knowledge known to the world during that time. But for certain, no other pirate was able to set this precedent, once again reminding us of the strength Roger and his crew possessed. What likely helped Roger face the hurdles of the new world was his tremendous power to overcome everything with his Haki. Along with that, Roger possessed the voice of all things, which allowed him to hear the echoes of knowledge from, well, all things. Listen, if you guys want me to break down what the voice of all things is, then share your Haki by getting this video over 30,000 likes, and then I'll drop a deep breakdown of it. But more or less, Roger could even hear voices from ancient objects, including poneglyphs, and was able to get the drift of what it was saying without being able to read the language. This immensely helped him navigate through the seas. But upon reaching Lodestar Island, they noticed the log post starting going haywire and wasn't registering to point out the previous island, which it should have done if Lodestar was the end. This established that there was one more island ahead, but there was no way of getting there. Yet, through the years, Roger had been learning more and more about the importance of the poneglyph that he was hearing voices from, and his visit to Lodestar fermented their purpose. Roger understood that the red poneglyph would give clues and be the road to reach the true final island. However, before Roger could even begin his journey to the final island, the Roger pirates would undergo one of the biggest events in history, as only a year later we had the God Valley incident. Now the timeline isn't so clear if this happened right after Roger arrived at Lodestar or a full year later. Either way, this shit caused mountains of waves for generations to come. ROCKS D XEBEC guided the strongest pirates the world had ever known to form a crew in order to execute one of the biggest scores imaginable. His crew consisted of Whitebeard, Big Mom, Kaido, Shiki, Wang Shi, Silver Axe, and again John. XEBEC's goal was to become the king of the world, not pirate king, but king. Somewhere along their plans was for the ROCKS pirates to attack and take over God Valley, a island where the celestial dragons would be in, along with their slaves. My guess is that these celestials would do the weirdest shit in God Valley, hence they needed a separate island away from Marijoa. But in order to protect the celestial dragons and their slaves, the navy was sent with Vice Admiral Garp leading their forces. Roger, being opposite to XEBEC as day is to night, joined forces with Garp and finally put an end to XEBEC's tyranny. With XEBEC's supposed death, the ROCKS pirate disbanded, and this is where most of their members later became captains in their own right. Now you guys might be wondering, why the heck did Roger stop to help the celestial dragons? Well, the thing is, we don't know why he even joined this war. It could have been for something unrelated altogether. Maybe ROCKS pissed Roger off, or Roger simply didn't agree to his probable genocide. Mysteriously though, after this battle, the island of God Valley also ended up vanishing. We don't even know what happened to the slaves and celestial dragons that lived there, but this brought the community to theorize that Shanks, being a 1-year-old baby at this time, was found in God Valley to be taken and raised by Roger and his crew. Regardless if that was true or not, it doesn't really matter at this point. Roger, after defeating the ROCKS pirate, would then go on to continue his mission in finding the road poneglyph to reach the final island. Somewhere along this time, both Shanks and Buggy joined the crew. Throughout these times, Roger and his crew also got into numerous battles with other pirates. Like we know of how Roger wiped off the Maelstrom Spider pirates, only leaving behind Squad, who would later go on to resent Roger, to the point of this emotion being a playing factor for him to stab Whitebeard during the Marineford arc. Anyways, at some point within this time frame, Roger finally came closer to finding Laugh Tale, as he was able to sneak into Linlin or Big Mom's territory of Totoland and gain a copy of her road poneglyph. This later on would inspire the Straw Hats to do the same thing in their own journey. But sometime later, at the age of 47, Roger came across a newspaper learning about a samurai from the Wano country who joined the Whitebeard pirates. Yes guys, I'm talking about none other than Odin, leading Roger to become interested in meeting him. Roger's intuition was like no other. This could have been due to his innate power of the voice of all things, or even his Haki. But one thing we cannot ignore is the outside pushing factor of destiny, and sadly not too long after, time itself would be a crucial matter in his quest.
At the age of 49, 28 years from the current story, Roger came down with an incurable disease. With his death on the horizon, Roger pitched to his crew to go on one last adventure to sail the entire Grand Line. As they set out through Reverse Mountain, they came across Crocus's lighthouse, recruiting the doctor to help prolong Roger's life long enough for his journey to be completed. A year into the journey, Roger was then approached by Shiki the Golden Lion, a pirate of a similar caliber to Roger or Whitebeard, who had also been in the ROCKS pirates a decade ago. Turns out that Shiki learned about Roger locating an ancient weapon. He proposed to Roger with Shiki's armada of ships and the ancient weapon. The two would be unstoppable. They could both team up and destroy the current world order of the Marines and celestial dragons, taking over the entire world. However, Roger said no. With a rejection more brutal than my crush in high school, Shiki went full yandere and said that Roger's answer meant death. If he couldn't have Roger, then no one could. So then a great battle started between the two crews. However, before the battle could get more heated, a huge storm occurred out of nowhere and sank half of Shiki's fleet, as if destiny itself was giving Roger the victory royale so he could reach the final island. One more thing this meeting of Roger and Shiki showed us is the words Roger said to Shiki. "I don't want to conquer anything. If you can't do anything as you please, then you're not a pirate." This is the same thing Luffy says to Rayleigh in chapter 508, giving us further insight into the type of man Roger was. He didn't want to be a king or a hero of a group, as that would restrict his freedom due to the responsibilities of a ruler has to their subject. Roger just wanted to go on his adventures, making friends freely with no obligation to turn back to. Roger had the same definition of pirate as Luffy or Joyboy, where he just wanted to share his bink sake, his freedom, to others and left before people would make him responsible for their freedom. This directly corresponds to why Roger was strong as he was. Conqueror's Haki at face value may seem like a power to subjugate others, however, it's quite the opposite. This is because before ruling others, one must conquer themselves and their fear. When a person second guesses themselves, they have already lost, but if they have no fear and 100% self-awareness, then there is no way they can lose. This is why Roger and Luffy are able to move forwards no matter the hurdles they face, as they aren't fighting for something other than what is natural to them, which is freedom. At the age of 51, Roger and his crew came across a marine squadron and utterly destroyed them. However, with all the commotion this caused, this caught the attention of the Whitebeard pirates. This just shows how powerful Roger actually was. With just his Haki, he could overpower Oden's two-sword style with ease, while he was sick and not even 100% of his prime. Remember that in 6 years from this encounter, Oden would fight Kaido and nearly beat him, so yeah, it's no surprise that Kaido in chapter 1047 has such high respect for Roger. Anyways, after destroying Oden's entire career in one hit, Roger clashed with Whitebeard, giving us one of the most peak moments in anime history where both of their conquerors Haki went head to head with their weapons not even touching each other. This fight between the crews lasted 3 days and nights straight and led to a gift exchange between the crews, as Roger and Whitebeard, although rivals, have equal respect for one another. You could even say Whitebeard is one of Roger's many friends outside of his crew. Roger then told both Whitebeard and Oden his goal to reach the last island in the Grand Line, and to achieve this goal he needed Oden to join his crew for 1 year to help translate the road poneglyphs. Oden of course agreed, because he's Oden, he wants to go on an adventure and everything, and he became part of the Roger pirates in their final journey alongside his wife Toki, Momonosuke, and Hiyori. Also, Nekomamushi and Inuarashi also followed Roger as stowaways, which could be destiny playing a part in Roger's discovery of the final island, as if Neko and Inu didn't sneak in, then Roger likely wouldn't have found out that the final road poneglyph was at Zou all this time. Crocus also tells Roger that he only has 1 year left to live, so the crew journey to Skypiea, where Roger easily found the Shandorian golden bell through his ability to hear the voice of all things. He also heard about the ancient weapon named Poseidon and asked Oden to write down a message telling the next person of his presence in Skypiea and his goals of reaching the final island. Next up in their journey, Roger returned to Water 7 to visit Tom, who built the Roger pirate ship in the first place, and here he also met a kid, Frankie. We then learned that Roger had already gotten the transcription of Big Mom's road poneglyph when he snuck into her island, further paralleling Luffy's feat in Whole Cake Island. With Inuarashi, Nekomamushi, and Oden in the ship, they told Roger the location of the final 2 road poneglyphs, which were in Zou and Wano. On their way to these islands, Roger had to pass through Fishman Island to reach the new world, and he also had an idea that the last road poneglyph was likely located in the sea forest of Fishman Island. When he reached the sea forest, Roger not only found the road poneglyph, but also a blue poneglyph containing Joyboy's apology to Poseidon. After Fishman Island, Roger and the crew had to stop at Wano not only to get info on the road poneglyph of Wano, but because Oden's wife Toki became sick and stayed behind alongside Momonosuke, Hiyori, Nekomamushi, and Inuarashi. With a Vivre card to Zou and a letter from Neko and Inu, Roger then finally landed atop of Zunisha at Zou. He found the final road poneglyph inside the whale tree and figured out how to get to the final island of the Grand Line. At this point of the journey, Roger's condition was getting worse by the day, so they had to be quick in reaching the end. Leaving behind a sick Buggy and Shanks who was taking care of him, the crew with the completed road poneglyphs made their way to the true final island. At this island, Roger learned the true history of the world. He figured out what the will of the D was, the mystery of the ancient weapons, and Joyboy's treasure. All Roger could do was just laugh at this discovery he had made. While laughing, Roger spoke of his curiosity about Joyboy and he wished he could have been around in Joyboy's time. With nothing but laughter as his reaction, Roger decided to name this final island Laugh Tale. Roger, now at the age of 52, came to unimaginable fame as he was the first pirate ever to sail the entire Grand Line, reaching the final island Laugh Tale, to which the newspaper and the public dubbed him the Pirate King. Through this fame also came every pirate on the sea seeking Roger and his crew to be eliminated for their treasure. With his health waning and learning that they were too early to free the world in Laugh Tale, Roger decided to disband his crew because he wanted to make a son. Roger also asked Oden that he wanted to meet Whitebeard. So then Roger jumped out of the ship, leaving his final words to Rayleigh that he would not die. This is likely a reference to his will, which will still live on, similar to Joyboy, whose will has survived for 800 years. Before creating a son, Roger then got his final meeting with Whitebeard, in which he asked if Whitebeard wanted to know what the will of D was and the location of Laugh Tale, but Whitebeard had no interest in any of that, as he was just happy sailing around with his family. Barely any time left in his life, Roger then does what any man would do in his situation. He goes on a quest to find some good pussy.
You got me.
Roger travels to Batarilla and meets the love of his life, Portgas D Rouge. They do some naughty stuff and she gets pregnant with Ace, or Anne if it turns out to be a girl. But with his life pretty much over due to the illness, he didn't have time to wait for his child to be born, so he left to get some milk.
What happened to the original plot of the movie?
So he ended up surrendering himself to the Marines so they would stop searching for him in order to keep Roog and his unborn child safe. The Marines of course imprisoned him and made preparations for his execution in the town of his birth, Logtown. While in prison, Roger met with his old enemy Garp. With mutual respect for each other through their many skirmishes over the decades, Garp and Roger had shared similar morals in life, especially the idea of saying that an infant shouldn't have to pay for their parents' sins. Thus, Roger asked Garp to find his child and take care of them. As Garp went on to find Roger's wife Rouge, the Marines put Roger in the gallows to make an example of him, to show the world that the Marines can even capture the Pirate King. However, just before Roger's head was yeeted, he yelled out the words we all know him for. "My treasure, if you want it, I will grant it. Search on, all the world had to offer. I left that in one place, the One Piece." These words did the opposite of what the government hoped for, with the entire world's eyes and especially the next generation of pirates being in the audience, such as Dragon, Mihawk, Shanks, pretty much all the big shots of the future. Roger's words only motivated them to keep pirating, thus leading us into the great pirate era in One Piece with the death of Gol D Roger, the strongest Haki user and pirate to ever live. Now, if you want to learn more about One Piece, then click on this video on your screen right now. Yes, click it because it's a mind-blowing theory about Luffy's Gear 5 powers.